joined this morning on Hot Coffee by Senator Francis Tolentino. He is President Duterte's point man when it comes to national disasters, and he convened the Interagency Committee after the Taal eruption. What is the government's response, preparation, and he's also the chairman of the Senate Committees on Local Government, Urban Planning, Housing, and Resettlement. Thank you for coming to the show. Thank you, Senator. All right, Senator, what is the situation on the ground today?
Well, all the evacuation centers, 222 of them, my last count, are functioning. Some who previously went to the residences of their relatives, friends, are now flocking to the evacuation centers. Situation on the ground, we have, in some areas, we have an overload of goods, especially those given by the private sector. So in terms of food packages, meron. In terms of...
and will it last? I mean, have you counted until when do they last?
I think it will last, but some are easily perishable. For instance, breads, loaves, and others. So ito yung napupunsyong na. And we are getting also sufficient help from LGUs. Yung mga LGUs from Cavite, Dasmariñas adopted 2,000 evacuees coming from Alfonso, Cavite, and then you have Naik, and then the Batangas areas, you now have LGUs as far as Lian, Balayan, Calatagan, San Pascual. They have adopted thousands of evacuees. So I don't have the exact number of evacuees right now because it's adding up because of the influx coming from private residences.
Okay, so clearly help is coming in, but the big question is when can people go back to their daily routine, their daily lives? FIBOC so far has Taal still at alert level 4. There was just a volcanic earthquake again last night, the strongest at 4.6 magnitude. So what are you envisioning in terms of how can people live again? I mean, they can't just be in the evacuation center for months without working or doing anything.
I agree. I experienced that during my stint as Mayon volcano crisis czar. I think I was there for 3 months. So imagine the daily inconvenience experienced by the people coming from Kamalik, Santo Domingo, Tabaco, Ligao, Bata. So parang ganun din eh.
So what would your advice be, chairing the Interagency Committee? What are the steps?
No, I was the one who convened the hours after the eruption of several national government agencies, several LGUs of Cavite, including Governor of Cavite, and several LGUs coming from Batangas.
So what steps should be taken to slowly normalize or get people moving again?
That was the main gravamen of the President's message during his Batangas visit, return to normalcy. That's why probably, that's the reason why I intervened and convened the Tagaytay Tourism Council a few days ago, asking them if they're ready. If not, we follow the advice of FIBOC. So some of them are ready because there is a need for restaurants, for the volunteers, for the media personnel. So some of them open. So it's a semblance of normalcy. And in fact, I recall when I was Mayon volcano czar, hotels were open.
Okay, no, let's stick to Tagaytay. Okay, so in Tagaytay now, in Tagaytay, you've already asked restaurants to open gradually.
Yes.
Okay.
But looking at the science behind this, from alert level 3 to 4, from the literature I've read, it has to be 3 to 4 days before you raise the alarm. From alert level 4 to 3, going down, 2 weeks. So, ano na tayo ngayon? 8 days.
Yeah.
So 6 more days, if it's going to be that normal pattern, a week more. But probably the return of the residents to the lakeshore towns of Batangas might take a little bit more.
Okay, now let's discuss this. You have residents that are already upset because of the lockdown. There are no entry on certain areas, but they need, for example, to get documents, right? That's one. And also what happens to the animals they've left behind, wherein they can earn from those animals too. They can sell them. What happens there? Is there a policy in terms of the Interagency Committee? Why not a window, an hour of the day to get this?
They've done that yesterday and the other day.
But then today it's a lockdown. I saw the report.
We were able, it depends on the FIBOCs in the area. But looking back, Alam mo, itong Feebles, napalagay ito doon yung kanilang instrument and even at their office in Tagaytay. During my term, I had an agreement with Director Pulong Bayan decades ago, years ago. So, the men on the ground, they have the call. But right now, you just referred to the animals, especially the horses. We have adopted several,
Yeah.
in fact, in our place in Tagaytay, you've seen footages.
No, but in terms of policy, would you suggest that the complete lockdown be open to, let's say, certain areas of the day so that they can get documents and even get their pigs, cows, horses? Marami kang natira, sir.
They've done that yesterday. Unfortunately, wala tayong animal shelters. Some private individuals, some groups, they're taking the dogs. Yung sa amin, yung mga horses. So, I agree, there should be a window. But again, it depends on Feebles and the authorities on the ground.
Yeah, because is there a government policy that's being discussed in the interagency committee? You know, something like only, I don't know if it's 96 or over 100 horses have been rescued. I've seen
Out
that
of 1,500.
there are 2,000 horses there, some have died, but there are many still alive. I mean, do you discuss it? Is there a policy in terms of, do we airlift those horses? What do you do?
Again, we leave that to the LGUs on the ground. I really commiserate with the horse owners. Pero marami rin nagsasamantala. You'll be surprised, there are some middlemen. Dapat ito pigilan ng if it's Department of Agriculture, merong gustong, they want to get the horses para patayin, para ibenta as tapa. I've heard of that. In fact, my niece was able to buy one. Bibili ng middleman for 3,000. Binili na namin ng niece ko mas mataas para hindi mapunta sa slaughterhouse. So it's happening. It's happening on the ground. So I would advise that animal advocates should join hands in preventing this.
Yeah, no, but then you're relying once again on civil society and the private sector. Are we saying that the government doesn't really have a plan? I mean, on a national scale.
The plan really in case of disasters such as this is first and foremost the lives of individuals.
And that's been done.
It's
So my
done,
question is today, is this part of the meeting?
We haven't discussed that yet. In fact, but I think it will gradually evolve into that. Have a window period for the recovery of the animals and place them in the proper shelters. And eventually, after the crisis is over, allow the legitimate owners to reclaim the animals well fed and checked by a veterinarian. So
Okay, all right. Because the reason I'm asking, what I've seen are photos and footage of ordinary citizens using their bangka to transport horses. So that would be one horse a boat.
hindi naman.
Or
Minsan tatlo, may
but
apat.
what we're envisioning is like, let's say, hypothetically, right, a bigger vessel that can technically put in so many horses and animals.
I'll get in touch with, after this show, I'll get in touch with Secretary Togate, heads the Coast Guard, so probably
Okay.
they can do something about that.
Another one is you've launched the Cash for Work program in Tagaytay. What kind of work are you starting, and can it be replicated in other
The
provinces?
Cash for Work really is, that's an LGU initiated mechanism for Picnic Grove. You have to clear up the Picnic Grove area, devastated dyan.
It's very
Bagsak yung mga
tragic,
puno.
yeah.
So, but there are Cash for Work programs coming from DSWD, you have from DOLE and other government agencies with QRF. Ito yung Quick Reaction Fund. So, I think within the next hours, i-unveil na nito. I've been texting Secretary Lopez since day one. Pinag-uusapan na namin yung post-disaster plan. So, I think they should be able to come up with a comprehensive one.
Yeah. So like for example, yung Picnic Grove, sir, if tumulong sila, if they help out in cleaning Picnic Grove, they'll be paid for it.
yes, we're doing that right now.
That's good. Okay.
2 days na.
And how much is it? 200 pesos a day? 300?
I'm not so familiar
But
with the
usually yan
exact
kasi
rate.
it's the minimum wage
Yes.
throughout the day,
Yes.
plus. Okay, go on.
But if looking at the bigger picture, siguro, if you look at our the existing legal framework, meron talagang gaps.
Yeah.
And I foresee some amendments in our laws, especially the NDRIMC laws. Take a look at this.
Let's discuss that. Okay, what gaps did you see?
If a certain LGU would prepare, they will have a drill. That's what we've done here in Metro Manila during our shape drills,
Yeah, yeah.
the exercises when I was MMDA chair. You will have a drill within your locality, assigning evacuation centers, perhaps within your locality likewise. So in a disaster with this magnitude, I don't think the drill will work. I don't think it will work. That framework would probably work for a disaster of the magnitude encompassing just the LGU's jurisdiction. If it should involve another jurisdiction, the other jurisdiction is not involved.
Oo.
Take a look at this.
Like Taal na lang. Let's use that study where in
Taal.
Taal's eruption
Taal.
affected. I mean, the
Yes.
ashfall went all the way to Nueva Ecija.
Yes, slow
But
down.
just, but just the direct
Yes.
is many
14
provinces.
kilometers. So,
Okay.
if you're a resident of Lemery, Laurel, or Talisay, the natural tendency is to go up. And that will be either Alfonso or Tagaytay. So if you go up, you're not familiar with the evacuation center in Tagaytay, you're not familiar with the barangay halls or gymnasiums in Alfonso after a disaster. Similar to what happened last Sunday. Umakyat lang sila following that Newgan Road or the Ligaya Drive, Sungay Road. Pagdating sa taas, saan ba yung evacuation center? And the authorities, the hosting authorities, Tagaytay, Alfonso, they're not familiar with evacuees coming from another jurisdiction.
Exactly.
Kasi pag nag-rehearse ka, ang nire-rehearse mo lang, yung mga kababayan mo. If you have a flooding situation in Tumana, in Marikina, during my term, lilipat lang yan doon sa Santo Niño. Pero kung talaga mataas na yung baha, pupunta ka na sa Katipunan. That's another jurisdiction, that's Quezon City.
So what do you suggest?
I suggest that we follow the principle being utilized by the Japanese authorities.
Okay, which is?
Although they have prefectures, they have an inter-LGU evacuation drill.
Okay.
So you're familiar with the evacuation centers in another jurisdiction, and that host jurisdiction is likewise prepared to host, to receive you, and to fund you.
Okay.
Ang calamity funds ng local governments is just for their constituents. Di ba? So to speak, kasi si Kapitan nag-train doon sa mga kababayan niya sa barangay, hindi naman niya tinrain yung mga kababayan doon sa isang probinsya. So again, that framework, perhaps that's correct if you look at the existing guidelines. The Batangas Provincial Disaster Management Office would cater to the needs of the Batangueños. The Cavite, the Disaster Management Council would cater to the needs of the Caviteños. So if the provincial government of Batangas declares a state of calamity, it doesn't follow that Cavite will also be under a state of calamity. How will the host receiving LGU now pay for and spend for the needed basic amenities of the evacuees coming from another jurisdiction?
And what happens now in terms of gaps and lessons learned and moving forward? For example, Volcano Island, okay? Volcano Island is not, now the president has said, permanently non-inhabitable. So you can imagine the thousands of people who built homes in Volcano Island, completely lost them. That's one. Plus the nearby towns around it. There's no number yet of how many residents have really lost their homes permanently and have to relocate. What is the policy now of the government, Senator, with them?
As regards the Volcano Island, talagang delikado doon. But
Yes.
if you recall, years ago, there was even a Korean spa that was supposed to be established there na ano lang yan, na booking lang yun. And then you really have a community, a thriving community.
Yeah.
There's a fiesta, there's an elementary school, there's a barangay.
It's at least 30,000 people.
Yes.
They said,
And
yes.
some parts of the Volcano Island are tighter. Would you believe?
So what happens now? I
So I
think this is good to discuss with the-
think this would have to be addressed by DNR,
Yeah.
Land Registration Authority. If there's going to be a permanent resettlement, and I would be asked, I suggest we start first with the Volcano Island.
Yeah.
But so far as the lakeshore towns are concerned, you have Talisay, Laurel, Lemery, Agoncillo, San Pascual, Balete, Alitagtag. Siguro hindi ka agad maapektuhan yun ng renovation because they've been there ever since. Tsaka kailangan lang naman ng alert for them to be evacuated. What is really needed is a very timely and responsive warning system. So,
Did FIVOX do enough? Are you going to launch an investigation? I'm curious.
my Kapitenyo colleague, si PD Barsaga, Congressman Barsaga, who's heading the House Environmental Committee, is calling for investigation. Kasi napakabilis daw yung 234, it should have been days. Alert level 2 about to erupt. Yung designation, but alert 2, it was already erupting. So, if you look at the perfected Japanese model, simplified yung kanila evacuate, about to evacuate now, should evacuate. Ganun kasimple sa atin, immerse pa sa scientific lingo, which you cannot understand.
Yes, and I was going to ask you because I interviewed FIVOX Director Renato Solidum on the show. He had said that it was on alert level 1 for months and it went up to alert level 2, but that's not yet the need to evacuate. But he claims alert level 3 to 4 was just within the span of 6 hours. So he did say that is possible because it depends on the behavior of the volcano.
I agree.
He said ideally it hits alert level 4 in a few days or a few weeks.
3 to 4
But
days.
you said 3 to 4 was in a period of 6 hours.
Again, we cannot argue with them. Siguro, it's been there. Siguro, what we need right now is to upgrade whatever instruments we have there. Siguro, alert level 2, nabagsakan na yun. Alert level 3, hindi na makita yun, including perhaps the person. Again, I reiterate what I mentioned a while ago. It was during my day as mayor when we had an agreement with Director Punong Bayan, Professor Tolentino.
And what was that agreement before? Can that be used today?
What the city did then was we gave them a site where they can build the FIVOX office. It's still there. We encourage them to have all this equipment. Pero siguro ngayon, as member of the Senate, we can really upgrade that by having multiple equipments. And of course, they have a partnership with the U.S. volcanic authorities. Perhaps partnering with Japan would be a good idea. I was talking to Yusek Solidum hours after their action.
Okay, so this is quite important in terms of moving forward. So you have a vision and a mission of what you want to do. Number one, partnership with Japan's style of inter-LGU evacuation drills, keeping it simple, of this evacuate, need to, etc. That's one. And also, what happens now in terms of inter-LGU planning, in terms of relocation? For example, what happens to a mayor is they won't want to accept someone or a group of people, let's say, coming from another town. You've seen this already because hindi nila constituents yun, they're not their voters, they have to provide jobs. Then you have the problem then of squatting. A mayor won't support a certain relocation site. How would you change that?
This is now where the newly created Department of Housing and Urban Development would come in, should come in as part of their mandate. This is not going to be a short-term nor a medium-term relocation solution to National Housing Authority because you're now talking of communities. When you talk of communities, it has to be sustainable, with livelihood, etc. So, mahaba pang usapin ito.
But you see the problem, I was going to say, Senator, the reason why people want to go back to their homes, maybe in Volcano Island or even parts of Agoncillo, what if they left the titles of their land there?
Meron namang ano yan.
It's not that easy, huh?
Yes,
I mean, honestly, just to get your birth certificate and NSO. So imagine, here you are. All you have is proof that I own this land.
That's another matter. Pero again, lives or
Yes. But,
so,
which is a good thing. That's the positive. There were no deaths.
ganun din sa Bicol, zero casualty tayo.
But we're talking already about today, right? What happens then? Is there in the interagency committee, for example, can they go to, let's say,
It will.
committee office and say, okay, what was your, how much land did you own, para they can search it up now, move forward. And don't be upset that as I ask this, I just want to press on.
Yeah.
I've asked it, does the government have a plan? For example, this is going to sound brutal. You own a pig, you've lost the pig, I'll buy it for 1,000. Government, you've lost the horse, I'm sorry you lost the horse, here is 5,000 for that horse. Do we have that kind of a system? Your house is gone, you can never come back. You are gonna have 50,000 pesos for your house. This is serious government planning
Yes.
on that. Do we
Yes.
have that?
As of now, I have to admit, we leave that to the LGU. Pero I think eventually you have the Crop Insurance Corporation coming
wow.
in, and then you have 3.2 billion pesos na yung damage agriculture. It's not just your usual backyard.
But can there be a one-stop shop that you lead? So to simplify it, isipin mo to, you're already poor. You face the tragedy.
I agree.
You have
That's a
to-
very nice suggestion. I
You
mean,
have to face red tape.
yes. Pero it's not just the private, the individual evacuees who will be facing this. Even the LGUs, imagine the town of San Nicolas, Taguig, Batangas, their records, yung records ng amilyar, yung real estate tax, bayaran na ngayon, yung records ng business transactions. So, I don't know if there's a redundancy so far as these records are concerned. Pero again, sisimulan lahat yan eh.
Yeah.
These are details that would have to be. You have banks. You have banks in those areas. So you have rural banks.
And what did you do with the banks? I'm just. I mean, there's
Two
cash
days
inside for
after
sure.
I was in touch with the provincial director of the Batangas PNP. Sila nang bahala doon.
Okay.
Kasi wala na rin yung security guard eh.
Oo. All right. There's a concern that Vice President Lenny Robredo raised that the government has slashed the calamity fund.
I'm not really convinced that it was slashed because kung meron tayong 16 billion ngayon, meron pang 11 billion unspent last year. And there is an spending authority that until the end of 2020, pwede pang gamitin. So 16 plus 11, that's 27 billion.
Oo.
So malaki pa rin yan.
I'm curious if, let's say, you hold the title of a piece of land in Volcano Island. Under the law, are they protected that the Batangas governor should give them another piece of land of equal value?
We have no law for that. Ang nagawa
That's
ko,
what happens to them.
ang nagawa ko lang ng Karen when I met the Tagaytay Tourism Council is that I requested the Tagaytay LGU to extend the deadline for the payment of business taxes kasi inapektado sila.
That's what
Number
practical.
two, although it's provided for the local government code during that first meeting of the interagency, I asked the DILG, Undersecretary Densing, to issue a circular para alam lahat ng LGUs extending the payment of the real estate taxes kasi bayaran na ngayon. So there has to be a tax relief for the residents, for the business sector in all these areas.
Clearly, you've said our disaster relief, let's put it to disaster preparedness, has improved and is quite good considering there are no deaths. I think that's the most important. You're
I think
right
so.
there. But how do we fare, Senator, in terms of after disaster preparedness?
Yun pa yung,
Post-disaster, how would you rate us?
yun pa yung kulang. I have to admit. That's why I've been pushing since day one for the creation of the Department of Disaster Management, which would really tackle rehabilitation. It's not enough that you provide food packs. The most important thing is for the immediate recovery of the individual as well as if there is a business establishment or the farm owner to have them in a better position.
Yeah. In terms of long-term planning, who does the long-term planning for these people?
Wala nga tayong Department of Disaster
And you think that would change everything?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Pag ganitong yan nangyari, sila na lang. Diretso na yun. In the entire country, there is only one place with a volcano disaster mitigation plan. Si Albay. Si Albay lang, circa 2018, because they've experienced this. Sa Japan, di ka na yan, yung mga prefectures, there's a volcano disaster mitigation council. Alam na nila yung gagawin. They can even conscript, they can even utilize a private building Kung kailangan buksan nyo yan, ito yung gagawin namin evacuation center. They
The law
Yes,
allows
yes, babayaran na lang yan pagkatapos. Gagamitin namin yung building mo, yung restaurant mo,
Yeah.
to be the evacuation center. Even your hotel, they have a law. They're allowed to do that. Sa atin, wala nun. Padlock yung mga hotel, bawal pumasok kasi private institution ito. So, we have to reach that point. Ang daming
Wait, that's a really powerful idea. Would you
Yes.
do that in the Philippines?
I think that's
But can you do that here?
we should do that. Ito, kinakatakutan natin, itong the big ones sa Metro Manila, yung earthquake. We have to do that. Hindi mo naman pwede, sarado mo na itong supermarket na to, no? I'm not referring to looting. Sarado mo na itong building na to kasi amin ito. No, we need your building for evacuation purposes. We need your building to transform it into an alternative hospital, etc.
First, yeah.
So yun yung mga dapat baguhin natin.
And you need a new law for that, or
Yes.
you just amend?
We amend. I think we amend. But if we create the Department of Disaster Management, I think that should be part of that. But just compensation should be there. Kasi alin mo pa yung mga gamit na yun kung lahat sa paligid mo ay sira-sira na rin, marami na namamatay.
Okay, so it seems, hearing your thoughts, because you're the one that's most active on the ground in terms of, in terms of our lawmakers, so you're seeing it, it's been your advocacy. Clearly, in terms of relief, you already have the private sector there.
Okay,
But
overflowing.
what I'm hearing from you is after this, what happens next this is what's unclear. Although you do want that, the DepEd said, they want evacuees out of schools so that kids go back to school and then they're transferred to tents. So that's one step, but once again, it's temporary for a few weeks.
Yes, ito rin yung mga conversation namin ni Secretary Briones during the Mayon volcano eruption. They have a TLS, a temporary learning shelter. Between a TLS, temporary learning shelter, and a temporary evacuation center, which would you prefer? Dapat siguro yung buhay ng mga evacuees instead of but of course, education is important. That's why
So what you're saying, are you telling us that you can still teach children in temporary learning centers? You don't have to evacuate them off schools?
Yes, of course.
Because that would be new, because the DepEd has already issued that they want to remove evacuees from schools.
the other day I was in Alfonso, Cavite. It's a high school. I think they're housing more than 7,000. In the place that I visited, baka 5,000 yun. Saan naman dadalhin yun? So, I think there has got to be a measure of agreement between education authorities and the LGUs na find a middle ground. Unahin natin yung buhay ng mga tao. And then, extend perhaps the period of the school year period for several days. Instead of graduation in March, perhaps before Holy Week. So, kaya naman yun eh. Or have a Saturday class. Kaya naman yun. And to think of, the children are also victims. That the teachers are also victims here. But perhaps I talked to two Talisa High School teachers na sa Tagaytay. Victims din sila. Nandun sa evacuation center. So, this is really a human catastrophe. So, kailangan magtulungan lahat siguro dito.
No, but
Sans the bureaucratic policies.
Removing the bureaucratic policies. Now, what will
Removing the bureaucratic policies, you go to the level of compassion. Ganun yung mga Pilipino, hindi naman yan. So, again, we have a lot of lessons that can be gleaned from this incident. It's not just your usual LGU evacuation scenario. It's now creeping to be of a regional magnitude kasi Tagaytay. Even the airport was closed.
You've issued a statement a few days ago when it came to repatriating our OFWs in the Middle East. You said that the government should come out with a huge standby fund for Filipino repatriation. Do we have a huge standby fund for disaster preparedness? That's not the calamity fund? Is that needed or it's immediate?
I think covered that. But again, the immeasurable support given by the private sector is really it's not part of the computation, but I think it can even match the government's
What
resources.
lessons wouldn't you repeat from Typhoon Yolanda, for example? I mean, the magnitude of that was so massive, but the rehabilitation of Yolanda also took so long. I mean, Marawi's rehabilitation is taking long, but it's a whole different scenario over there. But Yolanda, for example, in terms of housing, livelihood, it took a while, no? And it got a lot of criticism because of the time it took to actually have people back on their feet to normalize their lives. What lesson would it...
From my past experiences, Yolanda, Limayon, the recent earthquakes in Mindanao, Typhoon Ompong, I think what is really of good measure here in this recent eruption is that its proximity to Metro Manila, where you have the private donors,
you're right.
you can really
By car.
yes,
by land.
by land. Ito, pagdasal natin yung dalawang Lasal students na namatay, nag-donate na namatay.
Parang tatlo po ata
yes,
sila.
So, yung lapit namin sa Metro Manila was a good factor, positive factor na ang bilis. And plus the media monitoring it, unlike my previous experiences sa ibang lugar, malayo eh. But the logistical requirements needed to deliver the items, for instance, a truckload, you have to cross a McLoad, kung saan-saan. Ito, diretso na, in a few hours yung there, naggawa sa Pasig ng tinapay, tanghali, nasa Tagaytay na.
So that's the plus.
Yes, that's a positive. The question, what lessons learned, I think, yung nangyari before.
Already after already.
Yung previous incidents natin, we don't have the Department of Housing. Now the challenge is for the Department of Housing to really step up and address the situation.
No, I'm curious, the Department of Housing, I mean, clearly there's no secretary.
I think they have, the President appointed Secretary Ed Del Rosario as the
Permanently?
interim.
Interim, okay. But does the Department of Housing have money already for 2020?
Under naman niya yung NHA eh. So, operationally, that can be augmented. Marami siyang pag-ibig. So, I think the Department of Housing should be locked in step in this crisis.
Okay, all right. Now, the Department of the Disaster Management, when are you seeing that happening?
It depends on my colleagues. But I really don't...
Do you have colleagues that aren't believers or they believe?
Siguro a different approach. But I really think that we would not be employing new members for the department, new employees, because there are several agencies that can be attached.
But then you'd have to fold them up, right? I mean,
No.
I'm curious.
No.
You're saying if you keep the NDRRMC,
Yes.
double up, you'd fold them up and
Because
become under
they have no offense to my good friend,
Yeah.
Secretary Lorenzana, is permanent job, the Secretary of Defense. But if you have a regular guy who's there as the head Secretary of Department of Housing, under niya yung FIBOLS, under
No,
niya yung
and you mean
Pag-asa. Disaster, under niya yung FIBOLS, under niya yung Pag-asa. I-under na rin natin yung Bureau of Fire Protection. So, immediately you have thousands of warm bodies there nationwide. So, kailangan din naman yan. So, you have a functioning department, i-action mo na lang yung policies to have volcanic incidents, to have earthquakes.
Yeah.
Hindi na nakatakot. Yung bagyo, medyo nagagamay na natin yan.
But actually, another thing you said, what's clear is we don't have what Japan
Yes.
has. Only
Yes.
Albay has it. You call it a volcanic.
Volcanic disaster mitigation.
Yeah. Only Albay has it, you said.
Albay has
That's
it now.
quite interesting.
But Albay, sa Albay lang yun. Again, if we mix, for instance, a Mayon volcanic eruption with a strong typhoon, nilahar na yun, nilipat na siguro ibang jurisdiction, so you have to involve Sorsogon, you have to involve Camarines. So you have to revert back to the Japanese model.
Will you please do that one-stop shop where people can bring their problems of, I lost my horse, I lost my pig, I lost my title, and then you have that one-stop shop that will say, you're gonna get 200,000 or 100,000 for all of that.
Immediately, I'll speak to my friends, Secretary Lopez.
But
and then,
will the money come from DTI or it'll come from the calamity fund?
just to have this going. Kasi yung prices din ng commodities and everything, and then you speak of livelihood, siguro sila na yan ang dugan.
No, on that note, Senator Francis Tolentino, thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, let's get started today. I'm Karen Davila. You can catch our interview with Senator Francis Tolentino 10:30 this morning. It's also on I Want Official for free and at our ANC YouTube page. Market Edge is up next.